All right, everybody. Hello and welcome back to Dissonant Waves. This is episode 196, getting close to 200,
Damn.
and we are
That we are.
in a mood to get on with it this week. So I will just say the things
Yeah.
that we're listening to. I picked AFI's Black Sails in the Sunset and their Black Sails EP that kind of promoted it. Trix picked Dr. Dog's first Psychedelic Swamp, their demos, whatever you want to call it, their first release. And then their first initial release you can find on streaming these days, Toothbrush. Ritz, you picked Bread Club's Greatest Hits, fingers crossed, and the two tracks that exist on streaming by Sevilles or D.Sevilles or whatever you actually say.
Just Sevilles.
All right.
Yeah, on the Spotify it's weird. On Spotify it's a bit weird of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for anybody who's wondering why we're rushing this and getting any theories up in their head, it's pretty obvious. Dominic fucked my wife. We gotta rush these episodes now.
The anger is only going to build the more we talk.
Yeah.
But we're doing this for you, the viewer.
Yes.
Fuck you, Dominic. Nah, this is I think this is the pain episode for all of us. A lot of acid reflux going around, a lot of tiredness going around, and fuck Melbourne.
I
Yeah.
worked 63
Yeah.
and a half hours this week.
You know, I really wouldn't call that bragging rights.
I'm not. I feel
No,
like
it's
shit.
complaining
I'm
rights.
so fucking tired.
Cut back to 3 hours ago when you were saying, I'm not gonna lie, I loved it.
I did, but then I fell asleep and you woke me up.
I think you love the money.
That could very well be
Shame.
true.
No shame, but talking about shame, fuck you, Trix. It's just a slog to get through.
Yes. So,
Talking
They
about
can't
Dr.
all be
Dog.
singers. These are two important albums in the evolution of Dr. Dog, and we had to cover them to get to where we're going to next.
that's very fair. It's also interesting that these came out the same 2 years that the Raccoon albums came out.
Yes.
So, 2001, 2002. So,
I want to get off Trix's route ride. I want to get off Trix's route ride.
so
I was like, which one do I
Wait.
prefer, doing the Dr. Dog or the Shaky Graves? And I'm like, I just want off. I just want off.
So we did Psychedelic Swamp last year along with MIDI Swamp, the more modern versions, and this is a early version. It's kind of a musical. It's an opera, whatever you want to call it. It's just like a lot of skits and a lot of musical moments, and there's a radio station involved. Very sound
And according
collage.
to the comments as well, it's potentially not even the full thing.
Yeah, it seems like there's parts that are
missing.
yeah, it's parts that are missing. The tape is
It's like half lost.
so you're saying it could have been longer.
Yes.
And the tape is kind of warped at points, so it's not the true recording as it was meant to be heard. But for being an incomplete look at what they were doing to begin with, I think we get the gist for this. And
Yeah.
if we ever get to the point where there's a complete original version, maybe we can revisit. But I don't see that happening anytime soon.
I don't either.
But then, that gets us into Toothbrush, their proper first album, which has some elements from original Psychedelic Swamp, but then also, establishes them as just a band, not just like a weird college radio side project thing.
Yes.
So, let's talk about it. How rough was it to get through?
I said this is what it sounds like. I remembering my words exactly, but this is for people who think they get Ween, but don't actually.
I don't know.
It has-
I kind
It
of
has
like
a lot of similarities in the way that it was kind of produced, and especially with a lot of the vocals that were happening on, reminded me a lot of what Ween would do. But it didn't have that same creativity or just edginess that Ween would just so happily put out.
I mean, it's very lo-fi, and I don't know, I was not trying to super read into the lyrics because, like, you can't even really understand half of them.
Ah.
And like there's like I said, a lot of radio components. There are a lot of like fake radio ads and radio station stuff, and they're all done with like exaggerated voices and garbled moments, and like all these things that you kind of like expect out of maybe like a debut project. People that are trying to figure out what they want to do and who they are, and that's okay. I understand that. It's just
And
not.
it's also kind of funny because it's not the only debut we've covered this week that does that.
But it's also not
No.
super engaging. It's just kind of there.
Yeah, I fully agree on that. I actually was at the first couple like, oh god, this is just annoying. But then I realized, actually, it's not really that annoying. I'm just a bit tired, and this album's just a bit of a slog to get through. Like, the skits are fine, but I guess they're just not needed. It's filler for an album that's already kind of full.
In more of a sense of it being like a musical project or like something that's not meant to be necessarily a traditional album, I think it makes sense, I guess. But like we hear songs that we've heard before. Fire on My Back.
Yes.
They're all kind of snuck in there. Swamp Living, of course, is a big deal. But it's not until you get to like the real Psychedelic Swamp that they put out in 2016 where it's like, this is how the songs are supposed to actually be. On this version, they're somewhat there, somewhat not. They're kind of, done in passing, or they're garbled, or whatever. Like, we get Golden Hind, but, there's just
I think it's a...
Yeah, I get you.
Going into this kind of period of Dr. Dog, and I know Toothbrush is more the, I guess, the proper debut, I guess we'll call it the kind of, the streaming debut, we'll call it, since it's not technically, whatever. It's more of an interesting kind of like trivia than it is an interesting album.
Yeah, like I appreciate the effort, but like there's a gag that they do where like the top 10 best songs of the century, and like A, it's 2001. B, they only play 4 of them, and the other 6 could be some of the missing stuff.
Yeah.
And then the 2001 part of that is what makes the joke, I guess, kind of actually work. It's like, yeah, now in those 2025, it was never going to fucking hold up. Of course not, but it's fine. I kind of wish that if they were going for these types of ideas, though, they would have gone a lot more. I mean, this is a very early Dr. Dog. They haven't exactly found their footing. And to be honest, I haven't really fucked with much Dr. Dog outside of the Be the Void.
I like them all right. I mean, I think the early stuff obviously gonna be rougher. I think it's better than Raccoon for sure. Just creativity and just like trying to make something work alone. They do a lot more effort than Raccoon has.
I've already kind of forgotten how Raccoon sounds.
I
don't know if that's on them or on me though.
I very much will still say that Raccoon is like the band you hear at the local pub that is never gonna go anywhere, but you listen, you're like, oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
And then Dominic described 99% of the Australian music scene.
Like, I was in Ohio a couple months ago, and there was a guy playing at the restaurant, and he had like a little a thing you put on the floor that has his face on it, like a little tapestry, but made out of like vinyl, and like his name on it and everything. It's like, yeah, that's cool. I've never heard of you, but you're doing your thing, and you got your little advertising stand and all that stuff. That's fun.
Yeah.
Unless I look you up and probably not hear from you again.
Of all the stories. When was the last time we covered Break Club? Because we're covering them today.
Yeah, I
We
think.
covered them like when Bread and Butter EP came out. Yeah, that's been a couple of years. Yeah, I had a couple stories in there, but we'll get into it when we get to them.
Bread Club first one was our 100th recording. That's when we did Boy Scott and the Glass Beach.
All right.
Late 2021.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So
Yeah.
we've had some time since then, and here we are with Bread Club again. We'll get to that in a minute, but yeah, Psychedelic Swamp, kind of a mess, kind of interesting in the way it's presented, but ultimately, like, it's a lot of effort for something that could be better.
Yeah.
Toothbrush is a more traditional album. And it has some elements from Psychedelic Swamp. Swamp Living, of course, is just from there directly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's a little bit of, elements here and there. Like, I feel like I heard a few little things as the album went on. It's like, oh, I think that was from the other thing. But, it's an alright album on its own.
Yes.
Again, more put together, I think, than Raccoon. Got a little more country vibe, some lo-fi, like indie psych rock kind of thing. Like they could easily do like a Dolly Parton cover if they wanted to, kind of thing.
I'm 90% sure they have.
Oh, also, how much I laughed when they covered "Heroes and Villains" from the Beach Boys on Psychedelic Swamp.
Yeah.
That was very funny to me.
It was honestly probably the highlight of the album as well.
Considering that album, Smile being an unfinished album that's been kind of finished since then, and nobody quite knows how it was meant to go or how it's really meant to be. And here is this album we have that's not really fully complete, and no one knows if it truly exists in its full form. And Heroes and Villains is there both times.
Yeah.
Alright, so never cover that song if you want to actually release an album. Got it. We've learned our lesson.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Dog.
Thank you.
With that, should we get into favorites and least favorites? I honestly kind of like consider these albums to kind of be the same in terms of like ranking them or comparing them. I know they're not. I know one's got a bit better production or I guess better quality just because of the actual circumstances around it. But
I mean, can you say anything more positive about Toothbrush on its own?
not really.
I will say
that cover.
Yeah.
The cover's nice. It's a very little drawn thing. I like the D's are very different.
Trix, you will say.
I quite enjoy Toothbrush. Psychedelic Swamp is okay. I am too tired to explain why, but I like the vibes. I could not tell you a favorite or least favorite for any of our picks this week.
Yeah.
Swamp Living, at least, is I think a highlight of Psychedelic Swamp. I don't know if you would say it's like a favorite or least favorite, but it's a highlight. It's like one of the more complete songs.
It definitely is. I think it's just maybe I'm just sick of the overhype they do to themselves in it.
That's very fair. I like Jealous Man, I guess, from Toothbrush. I thought that was an alright song. Very kind of country-esque. I think Adeline was alright. County Line. My least favorite from Toothbrush is probably Heaven. And with Psychedelic Swamp, I think there's just more moments that I'm like either like baffled by or like hard to say least favorite in the same sense because it's just like, why is this here? Why is Car Crash here? For example.
Yeah, I agree. Like usually when I say like I don't really have a least favorite, it's not because it's usually because like everything was good enough that I kind of don't feel like highlighting something. I usually going to try to go like if I had to pick when I feel like there is a song that I kind of can pick out as my least favorite. Here when I say like I don't really have a particular least favorite, I agree. It's because it's more the moments than it is the songs that bring this album down. And I don't really have a specific moment that I go and say like, oh, this is my least favorite part by far, or even by enough. It's just like, there are moments like the singing just annoying the fuck out of me, or like some of the hype montages, I guess, or whatever they're doing, just getting a little too cringe.
Yeah. And again, I appreciate a good sound collage, but I would rather hear Jeff Mangum do it again, I guess.
Yeah.
Alright, shall we move on to Break Club?
Yeah, Break Club.
Yeah, so the story I was going to say with the pub is that I've seen, since we last recorded them, I've seen them 4 times. I saw them for the first time at a place called the House of Music and Booze, which I think is renamed to something else now, or taken by something else. And then the second time I saw him was with my friend, and we saw him at a brewery. and we were 2 of 7 people in the crowd.
Wow.
It went from a near sold out
Wow.
from that first show to 7 people, and that was like the whole like, oh yeah, pub band. Since then they've had two other shows which have had some reasonably good crowds. It all depends on the place and everything. Really,
Yeah.
for them, I think they're a band that gets a good crowd when they have a good timing and a good location. Anyway, they've had a lot of these songs out for years now, or been playing them for a while, so they finally got the album out. I think I've mentioned this before as well, and it's funny talking about kind of like lost media with Dr. Dog, but the Bread Club also has that first EP, which is just scraped from the internet.
Which one's that?
It was called Club Bread.
Oh, yes. I think we talked about that when we did Queen of Hearts.
Yeah, I know it
Right.
exists because I've listened to it. I was there. Bread Club, bring it back. I also found a place in Melbourne called Bread Club. I think it's a bakery.
That would make sense.
Anyway, this is a rare Ritalin pop pick.
And
That's the intro.
and it's great.
I know, it's lovely. I don't think this is like all hits, no filler, but I think the hits on this hit without you. Just they nailed the vocals on that.
It's like they plucked this right out of the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very. They have a kind of very nostalgic vibe that's going on with them, but like it doesn't feel like it's a rip-off on this. It feels like a genuine just wearing the inspiration on the sleeve.
Yeah.
Which, sounds similar, but there's differences. It's small, but it's different. Hearing like they're at least trying to go with different directions on every song as well, at least means like this is not a blender of an album, which is so easy to do for a band of this genre or this size.
And, like, gosh, starting out with, like, Sunshine being this combination of, like, a radio introduction into just, like, a really, really nice, just little piece.
A little acapella. I believe.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any instruments in it, yeah. Or, like, if it is, it's, like, very low production.
And then to go on with, like, Lonely Without You and, like, really blow that out into, like, a full sound is, like, amazing.
Yeah, I put that in my top 20, 25 or 23, and I full agree. Still, probably could have gone higher. If that... It's so weird for a song like that to be so short. Because it feels like they could just keep going on with it.
Yeah, and, I mean, this whole album was pretty economical. It's, like, 32 minutes, 10 songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, your Petite League length, usually. Actually, Petite League's probably a little bit
again,
shorter,
also
but...
feels... I mean, for pop these days, I know pop has usually been a whole, like, oh, here's a crick, you go straight to a standard. And calling this pop is a bit of an overstatement. Or an understatement, I guess. So, they're doing quite a lot of things from, like, R&B to, on Tokyo, they try to do a bit of city pop happening on that.
I think it's actually pretty fucking good.
Yeah. It's calling it just a pop album is,
reductive.
It's a bit of a broad, it's a bit of reductive, but in a sense, it's still what it is.
I'm constantly fascinated that Australia is so close to Japan, and and it really should be the country that is like the most otaku and has like the most capacity to take on like city pop and things like that. But America somehow still beat them to it.
Well, to be fair, like most of our Asian immigrants are not Japanese; they're Chinese.
That's fair too.
And there's many reasons for it besides putting out stereotypes and stuff like that. It goes back to the days of like Gold Rush, basically.
But still,
that's probably why it's the Chinese beat the Japan to getting to Australia.
But still, you have Tokyo. They do some Japanese singing on Tokyo. They have Love Games, which I think really brings like that pop flair, almost kind of like a K-pop production style a little bit, not necessarily literally K-pop, but like that glossy, high-produced, like little gem of a song.
Yeah.
And I do think with Tokyo as well, I think the singer's name is Dylan. Apologies if I'm wrong, but I'm calling you Dylan for the rest of this. Pointed out that they did have some Japanese ancestry, which is why they wanted to make a song like that.
It is Dylan. Good for you.
That's good that I remembered because I've talked to him a couple times. That would have been embarrassing. Not the first time I fucked up someone's name.
They have
All right.
they have some like some artwork, advertising artwork out there, and like the cover is rather interestingly like cobbled together in like a literal sense. Just like a bunch of pictures of them and things, and just like horizon lines and flowers and such.
Now there is one little other fact about this album as well that I'd just like to have pushed out so that they can never live this down.
Okay.
So, do you know what day this album released on?
April 11th.
If you can Spotify.
Okay.
That is the official release.
Okay.
They accidentally had this all uploaded on streaming in January.
Oh wow.
That makes sense
Because I think
Go ahead.
it was like I think it was Force of Nature. It could have been when they released one of the singles. Oh no, it might have been Pushing Away. Sorry, but they had that out. They didn't properly kind of like release it as a single. They released it as a part of the album, I guess, by accident. And the whole album was put on streaming for 6 hours. I listened to half of it. Figured I'll listen to the rest of this today. I'm busy, and by the time I got back home, it was not on Spotify.
Yeah, they have a 2024 date, copyright date and stuff. So it was probably just ready to go last year.
Oh yeah, of course it would have been. I mean, Lonely Without You came out in 23.
Yeah, so they've been sitting on this for a while.
Had the ideas, yeah. Had the single arts which all went in a different style to what the album art is. I think the single art's being the very kind of like simplistic, I guess just photo shoots with the same kind of like palette happening. I thought was a good style for the album art to go in compared to what we got. It's not that I hate the new album art. It's just that I hate when artists make single arts that are completely different to the album.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I wonder if they had a change in artistic production at some point.
Who knows? Well, they will know. Yeah, there's I think the other way of like describing Break Club's sound is it's got a bit of cheese to it, but like cheese is not bad. Cheese is only bad if you don't recognize it, and I guess that's what makes it what we consider camp. But it all gets into weird wordings anyway. But they have a bit of that, but they go with it. They definitely have a bit of awareness that's of the sound that they're making.
But they're also genuine, which makes it work.
Yeah.
There's a certain name I want to bring up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Donnie Benet.
That is a fair name to put in. I don't think they have that same kind of vibe or aesthetic that Donnie Benet has.
No.
But I think if you take the seriousness of how the songs actually sound, I think that is a valid comparison.
Like they could open for him. It would not be out of place.
It's Isn't Donnie Sydney as well?
I mean,
all right.
If that hasn't happened yet, you should make it happen, people.
Yeah.
Donnie, get out there.
On their website, they say that the album is a journey through the years, taking inspiration from music from every decade from the 60s up to present day. I can definitely see some different decade influences. I don't know if I necessarily... Yeah.
It's definitely not got that much of modern sound in there. It's a bit embellished there, but
yeah,
at least that doesn't feel like a line that's like a complete lie. You can definitely see what they were going for there.
Yeah,
I don't think there's much like naughty sound in there. I feel it's more like a 60s and 90s.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, there's some city pop, so that's more 80s. Sunshine and Lonely Without You, very kind of like 60s, 70s. But like when you get to like Can't Keep Hurtin', that's still very like, yeah, R&B, but still sounds older.
Yeah.
I guess that'd be like your 90s, but yeah. I like that they tried to call their shots with fingers crossed. I think that's a little cute, cheeky little thing. You know,
it's a cute, cheeky little album.
Yeah, and
just don't put it.
They have the strength, the temerity, the interest to kind of promote themselves with that little radio guy talking. So that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was always going to be a short album to go through, but it was a cute album to go through.
Yeah.
Favorites on this, Lonely Without You and Come My Way are obviously favorites because I've had them in my top 100 both years. I saw it Tokyo and Pushing Away. Least favorite is probably actually Force of Nature. Maybe it's either Force of Nature or Shotgun. But like, I don't hate them. Just yeah, I feel like probably the least interesting of the bunch is just how I put it.
I mean, I like Sunshine, I like Lonely Without You, I like Tokyo, I like Love the Games, I like Can't Keep Hurting. I like a good amount of this album. My least favorite's probably something like Technical Difficulties.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, there's my least favorite, I guess, but like, it's a pretty good album. I like it.
And Trix is not doing favorites or least favorites, so we are moving on to the finale, which you call an album and an EP.
Well, hold on. Let's do D.Sevilles first.
No, I'm barely alive.
D.Sevilles, we can. I guess yes, we can actually. You know, it's actually going to be probably about a 2-minute thing to do.
Yeah.
D.Sevilles. So this is Sevilles. I did kind of forget that we covered this, but it's actually because I'm rushing this. Trix will be moaning the whole time. That is not a good thing to be doing, but we will live with it. Anyway, Sevilles been playing for about the past couple of years now. I don't know when they started exactly. I haven't seen them that much. Last year, I had a Sevilles curse. It was every time that I tried to see him, it clashed, or I got sick, or I had to go somewhere else. So I only saw him for the first time this year. They haven't had anything released on streaming or anything yet. It's all just been the live sets. So they figured, okay, well, we'll just put this under another account, so it's not official Sevilles, but it's Sevilles, and it's basically a live recording that they've done acoustically in a stairwell.
Yeah, it's cute. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some really nice guitar twangs, some really nice folky moments, some really nice, just like human moments. They're playing in a stairwell.
Yeah, it's very ethereal as well, with just like how it sounds. It helps that they're in that stairwell.
Yeah,
you know, because there's no production basically going on. It's a very rough live recording.
Yeah.
And that's fun.
And you can hear them laugh, you can hear them make the mistakes and everything like that, and they just put it out because they're like, yeah, let's just put something out, and it's like a good. This is what the band kind of sounds like.
All right.
Yeah, they have a full proper setup when they're playing an actual live show, but that's not what it is. It's a quick little thing I wanted to add on because I figured, hey, let's get us an introduction into this kind of style of the Australian emo scene, which we don't really follow much of the softer side.
Are these songs that they play at all in their live shows? You know?
Yeah, they would play these live.
You know what they're called? They're just called Stairwell Time and Stairwell 10 minutes later, basically.
Yeah. No, I have no idea of any of their song titles.
Fair enough. Yeah, just an enjoyable little thing. I'm curious if is it for sale anywhere? I feel like it's one of those things you want to snap up if you're into it because they might take it down later.
Yeah.
Let's check. But until then, you want to go introduce the last of what we're doing?
Yeah. All right. AFI. We covered them a couple times early on, and I've always been curious about coming back because I've always been interested in the idea of like a band that puts out an album and then they're like, but before that, let's put out like an EP. Like we'll do singles, but like let's put out a promotional little EP that's gonna have a bunch of our songs already on it, and then maybe like a B-side to kind of round it out, make it a little more unique. Back in like 2019, this was available to buy. And I remember at the time being like, that would be interesting to do at some point. But now it's no longer available. And so here we are. Black Sails in the Sunset.
It will exist if you can find it at your local punk store.
That is very true. You can still buy it physically.
Yep.
I mean, the album still exists, obviously. I'm talking about the EP not being available.
Yeah. The EP is basically just the album songs. And then The Boy Who Destroyed the World demo version.
Mm-hmm.
That riff is heard a couple times, I feel like, in the album.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh yeah. This is AFI were a good punk band. And I stand by that they still had some good times after they left the sound as well. But like, yeah, this is just a good punk album. I don't think it stands out the same way that the All Hallows EP does.
No.
But it's like, yeah, what's gone into my YouTube recommendation now, even after only just listening to this basically recently, is the live sets from around this time as well, and you're just seeing them playing in a crowd of like 100 people where there's no barrier.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so that's how AFI was meant to be enjoyed.
And I think they're interesting because they started out very punky, and this is already like an evolution of their sound because they're much more horror and macabre focused and very like, ooh, we're kind of gothic, but not like gothic, but like the evolution to like a Miss Murder kind of makes sense, but this is nowhere near what December Underground sounds like. Like and you know, later on, I think AFI, I have my quibbles because yes, they have more polished sound and they cannot get away from the punk stuff, and that's their right. But they really do take out Green Day. They really want to be Green Day. It feels like sometimes, and so it's fun to it's fun to at least remember the point where maybe they still wanted to be Green Day, but they were still just doing punk.
Remember, Dominic, they opened for Green Day on the Australian tour. You're not wrong.
And, you know, Davey Havok, the singer, did play Jimmy in American Idiot on Broadway. So, it's there. But yeah, this is the point. This is like the point where they became, I think, known in like the punk scene, like beyond their origins. Like
AFI's always been kind of an interesting band to kind of talk about because same with a bunch of bands that are, I guess, are in that scene. You sometimes forget that Rise Against basically started off the same way.
Yeah.
Where it's a band that completely it lost the modern the modern day listener what they would associate AFI with if they knew all the terms and stuff would probably be more emo.
Yeah.
That's just I like Miss Murder as a song still to this day. I think it is actually a defendable song that goes through a lot of interesting changes and
yeah.
It's December Underground's a good album. What they've done after that you can debate and I probably won't fucking defend. Although I will defend Twisted Tongues. I thought that was a good shoegaze song. And yeah, it's a band that's basically like well, I guess that's a lot of the bands that were popular with I say emo. I don't think AFI were ever emo, but that is the kind of aesthetic that was going around in the early noughties, where basically anything that had a bit of angst to it was considered emo, and it's a weird thing. But you know, you had bands that actually had genuine roots in these DIY scenes, or
people were fawning
emo stuff like Jimmy Eat World was like a big band in Midwest emo before Bleed American came out.
And like Davey Havok being all femme and pretty and like the Miss Murder and Girls Not Grey era, like being very much kind of like crushed on the same way that Gerard Way is.
Yeah,
like
again, Gerard Way. I think they were ones that never wanted My Chemical Romance to be associated with emo.
Right,
but it is, you know, it still kind of is, and that's the kind of point that I put out.
Right, they all contributed to that aesthetic. It became something of its own little thing, and that became associated with emo, angst emo. You know, it's a fine line in some ways. In some ways, it's really not. And the mid-2000s were a weird time in general. So, who's to say who's to blame?
There's my reflux hitting. Fuck me. Who wants to hear a loud burp?
Trix, are you okay?
Yeah, sorry, Dominic.
I'm holding out here a little bit.
Get off of my lawn.
You're so muffled right now.
I am just laying in bed because I have no energy. I have spent it all.
Okay, we're almost done.
Yeah.
We're almost done. We're almost. This was always going to be a short episode thanks to Dominic fucking my wife.
But yeah, I like exploring AFI's transition from being a punk band into this kind of darker era, into like the super cleaned up DreamWorks era and beyond. Like One of the reasons I even do this podcast was I listened to an AFI podcast years ago called "The Fire Inside," and I think them going through each album and EP and everything kind of told me that I was interested in this, and I like doing this, and I like listening about it. So probably one of the reasons why we're doing this now.
That's it. And look, this is a good AFI album. I think it's one that's like a lot of albums that come out in the hardcore punk scene, and I guess even to this evolution. It's one of those. Once you talked about like 5 seconds of it, you've kind of talked about the whole thing. I think there's differences between songs, whatsoever, blah blah blah, but they all kind of keep the exact same sound going through the whole way, and it's a cool sound. It really fucks. I think AFI really did horror punk in not a way that no one else had done, because it's basically what the Misfits had did, but in what was then a more modern of a way. They were letting that kind of sound evolve and not get stuck. But it also feels like they must have gotten stuck with that sound because they completely drifted away from it. And you know what? Big ups to them to doing that as well. If you think you can't do something with the sound, so you want to go and explore something else, it's what stops the band from being just a repetitive mess the whole way through.
Right. And and it's hard to understand Davey a lot of the time, and that's just kind of the style as it was. And that's fine. A lot of hardcore punk, you don't have to necessarily understand it as much as you just feel it.
Yeah.
That's it. I do think that, if Trix were a little more cognizant, I think she would give bigs ups to Clove Smoke Catharsis, because I feel like that's a song made for her.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I like that at a glance.
But this album also does the big sin I know you hate, Ritz.
Yeah.
It has the hidden track at the end. After
10 minutes of it. It's something that made sense back in the day, but just if you're gonna do it for streaming now, just cut the song. Get on Audacity.
Yeah.
you can keep the silence in as a separate track if you wish, I guess, but if you don't want to, you can skip ahead.
Yes.
But there are times, like there are certain songs like the ending "God Calling Sick Today" and "Midnight Sun," and as well as like "Close Smoke Catharsis," where they do show off more of their range. Strength Through Wounding kind of does that too, but it is kind of interesting still to be like, hey, 7 years later, this would be the Miss Murder Band. And they had a lot of hits around this. "Boy Who Destroyed the World" is a fantastic fucking song.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that whole EP is. I'm done talking. My reflex is saying, "Hey, shut the fuck up." So
I am very tired.
I'm ready for us to call this one a short, quick, lovable episode.
Also,
this was a shit show, but a good one.
Yeah, I
agree.
I like Close Smoke Catharsis. I do like "Midnight Sun." I do want to give some ups to "Who Knew," the B side on the EP, because that was a cute little thing. It kind of does sound like "Boy Who Destroyed the World," but different enough. My least favorite is probably, I don't know, "Prayer Position" is kind of interesting, but also kind of feels belabored a bit, I feel like. But that's me.
Okay.
I would just be lazy and agree with you for the least favorite, but my favorite is "At a Glance."
Okay.
And Trix is dead. All right.
I'm still alive, but apparently.
Trix, do you want to just randomly put out the albums and rank your lowest to your best?
Come back next week and rank.
Hell yeah. Dominic, I'm gonna go Toothbrush is my least favorite, then Psychedelic Swamp, then the D.Sevilles, then I'm probably gonna put AFI, then Bread Club.
Okay.
Part of me wants.
It was a 50-50 between those two.
I will agree with you, but I will put the Black Sails EP below D.Sevilles.
Okay.
And because part of me was like, I do want to swap D.Sevilles and AFI, but no. As much as I like the D.Sevilles, it's just 2 tracks, and it's not like it's the most amazing thing in the world. So it's properly placed.
With that now, we guess we figure out what we're doing next week. But I'm out for 2 weeks.
Oh, you're out for 2 weeks
Is
again?
this just minis? I'm out for 2 weeks. Apologies, but I'm on holiday.
Did not realize.
So-
But that's okay.
I did mention it in passing.
Oh, I'm
And
just.
by passing, I probably left a Discord and then went, "Hey guys, I'm on holiday," and then they're like, "Yeah, they heard that."
All right,
But,
I'm gonna grab one more
yeah.
thing to add to my stuff then.
Okay.
That is fair to do. Trix, would you like to say yours so that you can leave and sleep?
I'm
will
gonna
be
do
pricing
the
those.
beach bunny.
The new beach money.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad we actually all understood that.
Yeah. It's just the first thing that came to mind.
You know what? I've listened to the Beach Bunny. It's not a bad pick.
Yeah.
Dominic, did you want to go last, or are you happy to go next?
I'm happy to go next. I'm gonna do an album that I have talked about doing before, that I've been sitting on for a very long time, that I'm just gonna fucking pull the ripcord and say we're fucking doing it. It's Troye Sivan's Blue Neighborhood.
Alright.
We're doing the deluxe version because that includes the EP that precedes it, that is somewhat related. The one on Spotify is the correct version that has the XXYYXX remix at the end that I do like, so I want to make sure that's the version that's included. And since we're here, we can finish up Troye Sivan by doing the In a Dream EP from 2020 as well.
Cool. Alright, is anyone going to pretend like they don't know what I'm about to pick?
I mean, Petite League's coming out next week, so I can't imagine what it'll be this week.
It's hunting season. If Homer's Rare releases an album, I'm going to cover it. I'm just not even going to lie and be like, "Oh, yeah, no, I don't want to talk about it. I want to fucking wait a bit." No, of course I want to talk about it. So we're doing Homer's Rare's hunting season.
As I expected.
Yeah.
Hell
I
yeah.
don't care how predictable I am. I like Homer's Rare.
I think we all like Home as well.
They're a good band. Yeah, they're a good band.
Alright, so I'm gonna look up the Beach Bunny name real quick.
It is something. Yay, I am very helpful. Yo,
Tunnel Vision.
Fuck, I was setting it up.
Alright, so that means that our next regular episode will be Beach Bunny's Tunnel Vision, Troye Sivan's Blue Neighborhood Deluxe, and In a Dream EP, and Home is Ware's new album, Hunting Season. Also, as a note, I do want to mention we'll have more time for this now, so you have more time to plan, Ritz. I do want to cover the Talking Heads' True Stories film and soundtrack, so please try to watch that.
I will try.
Trix, I know will watch it because you like Talking Heads a lot. I don't even know what that was, but yeah. Anyway, that's gonna be us.
Until then.
Have a good time, everybody. Please don't be alarmed by what you heard. Everyone's okay.
Bye.
Dominic fucked my wife, but it was consensual.
And then you were in the cuck chair, and we can talk about that off air.
Well, why do you think I'm in the hotel?
Bye-bye.